What pronunciation of your last name so I don't mess it up?
Mahonen.
Mahonen.
Mahonen,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so introduce yourself to the camera, I would say.
Hi, I'm Michael Mahonen.
Alright, I'm on the convention floor now, and I'm speaking this week with Michael Mahonen, and we're joined by Kyla Clarissa, who last met at Flowers 22 last year. Good to see you again, Kyla.
Good to see you.
Now, Michael, you've been acted in quite a wide variety of genres, from Avonlea to science fiction. You find there's a difference between acting in older, fashion drama and something futuristic?
Actually, in essence, they're basically the same. There's a character to play. There's a role I have to discover, and each character, regardless of what their time period, they have the basic human elements. They have maybe not so much human in Star Trek Voyager, but that's the way the writers write it, with these things, human things we can identify with, certain emotions, etc. And so, regardless of the time period, I think in essence they're the same underlying principles in terms of acting a role and finding a character and serving the story purposes of each scene.
Now, there's a different audience between Avonlea and Star Trek, of course. How's been the response been to either roles?
It seems that if they know both of the projects, they seem to be happy about the fact that there are these two very different characters. They seem to find that interesting to see the same guy in these very different kinds of roles. And some people who are Avonlea fans are surprised that I don't actually have that accent. And I think some aren't sure which accent I really do have. But other than that, they seem to think it's pretty cool.
Great. And how'd you find working with special effects? Like, Avonlea is very bare bones, very countryist, and Star Trek is blue screen and CG. Did you find, was it tricky to go acting to sometimes to nothing?
Well, we didn't do much of that, actually. We shot it at, what was that? I guess Paramount Studios in LA. And it was all interior, but it all takes place exterior, all of my shots, but it was all in a studio. And everything was real. What you saw, there was no green screen there. They built a little forest, a little bush area, the battlegrounds, all of that stuff. It was real and it was live. And the guns were real guns. I mean, we had blanks. There wasn't live ammunition in there, but there was live fire in a sense without actual ammunition coming out. And you can see in some of the photographs that you can see the big flashes of flame coming out. And what was interesting for me is that having that, it was just kind of fun to play with those kind of guns, frankly. How often do you get like a high end automatic weapon in your hands when you're like kind of playing soldier in a sense? So yeah, it was really fun.
Right, and you probably got warnings from like people going to scripts saying you can only go here and you can't go there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was actually a piece of choreography that I added into one of the battle scenes. I talked to the people there because there was a scene where we were basically firing at an unseen enemy, and then we were supposed to kind of like just run off. And I said to one of the extras, who was also a stuntman, as his other job sometimes, so I knew he could easily take a fall. So I talked to this stuntman working on the show. And the director, I said, what if he gets shot? Just so we can add a little bit of variety in here. If he gets shot, then I can kind of, grab him and like carry him off. And so we added that kind of stuff in a little bit. And but certainly you have to be extremely careful. Even also when you're doing like any kind of stage combat, you also have to be. It's like a dance. You have to be very well rehearsed.
I get you. And now you also write, produce. What do you find more enjoyable? Writing, producing, acting? Do you find using different skill sets, or do you find one more enjoyable than the other? What?
Use this hand.
Oh.
Switch hands.
Okay.
Put this mic in your hand.
Okay.
There. Awesome.
Yeah. So do you find one more enjoyable than the other?
Well, in terms of writing, acting, or directing, it's I don't really base it on whether it's so enjoyable or not. There's a job to do, and I enjoy doing all of it. But there's not really much of a comparison with Sandstorm, the film that's screening here tomorrow at 4 p.m. There was an urgent and remains to be an urgent human rights crisis in China in terms of the communist regime there persecuting millions of innocent people who do the practice of Falun Gong, which is persecution has been condemned by all major human rights organizations, the United Nations, the United States State Department, and many other governments. And so while making that movie, it was, in a sense, artistically enjoyable, and I was able to help out the actors a lot because of my background in acting, but it was also intended to serve a very specific purpose as well. So there was always an urgent sense of necessity involved in that entire process.
So that's something that you wanted to contribute, or how you approached to taking part in this kind of project?
Well, I started hearing about the persecution of Falun Gong within months after it began, and then the reasons for the persecution given by the persecutors, the Chinese regime, they were just bogus. There was nothing substantial to verify what they were doing. So I knew there was something wrong, and then a couple of years later, I just literally opened the door to my apartment to leave one day, and I saw a flyer on the floor that said "Truth, Compassion, Forbearance," and I picked it up, and it was like, these are the Falun Gong people. Oh, and this is what they practice. I started looking into it on the internet, and I've been doing the practice myself now for about 8.5 years. Having read the teachings and having heard the propaganda to attempt to justify the persecution, that really made me want to tell the truth about what's happening. I wanted to do that in China because they have a strict internet information blockade there, and people can't get the truth. So I made a movie that was done in Chinese. I wrote it in English, it was translated, and it was sent into China in order to clarify the truth of the persecution of the Chinese people, because even though they live in the country, they are the least likely to know what's actually happening within their own borders because of the internet blockade. So this movie, within a month of being released, actually made its way into the hands of the police, who were the target audience, and they had seen the movie. There was verification of that.
That's terrific. Now, did you having lost in translation when it came to that, or things you wrote and then it went, oh, it got translated equally?
No, I know the people who translated it, and I know that they understand what's going on with the persecution, and I wasn't concerned about whether or not it was accurate.
Oh.
No, I'm very confident that what I wrote was accurately depicted. Yeah.
So what are you working on next? What are your future projects coming up?
Well, I have a film production company that's starting with a business partner, and we have some projects. Sandstorm being released in a theater in New York for a week in the beginning of September, and also in Los Angeles. It will be released as well. This will be Los Angeles will be the 7th. It'll be released, and New York City will be released September. And then subsequently the DVD will be released late September.
Okay. Any website people can check out if they're interested in knowing more about you?
Yeah, you can check out sandstormmovie.com. That's the website for the movie. If you want to check out anything about me, just Google Michael Mahonen, and you'll get a lot of fan websites and that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's lots of.
Thanks for taking the time to speak to me today, Michael.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thank you.